Right back at the start of the year, the first phone that I reviewed was the Magic 8 Pro, and I said that that could have been the phone of the year. And 6 months on, I'm going to say something very similar about the Honor Magic V6, because honestly, this might just be the best foldable phone that I've ever used, and everyone else, they might as well give up because there's no beating this. I would call myself a foldable guy. I've tried a lot of them, and as foldables go, I struggle to think of one that gives you as much as the V6. And I feel like every year that Honor are one of the main players when it comes to foldables, so it makes me really sad that this is not going to be available in the States, and the only way to get this would be to import it, but it could honestly be worth it. I could review this phone in a very traditional way, telling you that I love the 6660 mAh battery, that it never dies, and this is what all foldable batteries should be. I could tell you that this is the only other foldable away from Google that has an IP68 rating, and the only other foldable in the world to have an IP69 rating. And I could tell you that the cameras are the best I've ever tried on a foldable. This is flagship territory, two 50 megapixel cameras for the main and ultra wide and a 64 megapixel for the 3x telephoto. And I don't even have to show you 100 photos to show you that this looks great. Nice colours, great details, and it looks like a proper flagship phone camera. And that folding display, it might not be quite creaseless, but it is 8 inches of pure OLED loveliness. But what I want to kind of do is go against the phrase that I hear all the time when it comes to foldables, which is, what's the point? So I searched it, what's the point in foldables? And so many Reddit threads came up, people saying that they're overpriced, that specs just aren't good, and they break easily. So I'm going to show you the point in foldables, and the Magic V6 is the perfect way to do it because honestly, it kind of debunks all those myths that people have about foldables. I'm sure you've heard the phrase 100 times before, a tablet in your pocket, but this is one of the biggest reasons that I love foldables. Let's take the Magic V6. It's almost creaseless, it's 120Hz, it's OLED, and it's got some really quite nice anti-reflectiveness. And of course, the best thing is that this can fold down and it can just fit straight into your pocket. Like, what's not to love about that? I know a few of you will say, but if you watch videos, you don't get a full screen and you still get those black bars, so you might as well just use a normal phone. And I would say you're about 50% right. You definitely do get the black bars, but this is what foldables are great for. You can use the phone in a clamshell mode, which I do all the time, and you can only do this with a foldable. You can place it down while eating, or scroll through comments on YouTube, and you can do more things at once, especially if you multitask. And the V6 is just very good at doing that multitasking. You can get 3 windows open at the same time and jump between your apps, and this is very similar to what you can do on Oppo Folds and of course the OnePlus Open, but this is great. I'm not sure how you can beat this multitasking experience, and Honor have just got it nailed down. But the next thing that I always hear is, yeah, but a foldable phone means that the specs aren't very good, and let me tell you, that's not true. Foldable phones are as powerful as your flagship slab style phones. The V6 has the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, it's got 16 gigs of RAM, and I feel like those main foldables that you can get in the US, the Z Fold 7 and the Pixel 10 Pro Fold, those specs, they do kinda suck. You pay more than the flagships, and you get worse cameras, mostly worse batteries, and sometimes a worse display. On the V6, I feel like this is probably the first foldable that doesn't compromise on those specs, because this is like a flagship slab style phone that can fold open. Let me stick on those flagship specs for a second and move to cameras, because the V6 might have the best camera in any foldable that I've ever used. Let me show you some pictures, some taken on the V6 and some taken on the S26 Ultra, and I just want to see whether you can spot which ones are which. The reason I'm comparing this to the S26 Ultra is because those cameras are pretty flagship level, and side by side I can't tell easily what is what. At a glance, I don't think you can tell what is the S26 Ultra and the Magic V6. If you were to start looking very closely, there are some subtle giveaways, like noise appearing in the shadows on one of the pictures, and the saturation being a little bit too much. But the details are on par, dynamic range is pretty close as well. Before I tell you which photos were the S26 Ultra and the Magic V6, let me know in the comments whether you guessed this correctly or not, because the Magic V6's photos were all on the right, and I think that they look as good as the S26 Ultra, if not better in some situations. And if you compare the Honor Magic V6 to something like the Pixel 10 Pro Fold, this wins hands down every single time. On the V6, you get much more detail in the photos, and like I mentioned before, they might be a little bit too saturated for my liking, but I can deal with this. Just look at the difference between the 3x lens on the V6 and the 5x on the Pixel. There is just no competition. The Pixel's photos lack detail, they're soft, and the colours, they're just a little bit off. The V6 blows it out the water in terms of those details, and I kind of prefer that 3x focal length. Even on the ultra wide, I would say the shadows on the V6 are maybe a little bit too dark compared to the Pixel, but then I think there's more detail here. And when you compare it on video, the Pixel does not stand a chance. Just look at these two side by side. The Pixel is just bad. The V6 isn't amazing at video. It is a little bit jittery when you move it around, and the details, they're not always as sharp as they should be, especially in the edges because they can get a little bit noisy. You could easily believe that the video here isn't taking on a foldable. I'm a big fan of how it handles the details on this ladybird, but it can struggle a little bit in low light. It might not be the best video that you've seen on any phone, but it definitely is the best video that I've seen on a foldable. The next thing that I always hear about foldables is that foldables are easily broken. The V6 is possibly the most durable folding phone that you can get, and if you've seen any of my videos, then you know I need that because I drop phones a lot. There are only 2 foldables in the world right now that have an IP68 rating, this and the Pixel 10 Pro Fold. But let me just show you how durable the V6 actually is. So let's do the classic throw your phone across a field test. I think it's okay, let me have a look. Okay, no problem. But every good science experiment knows you have to do this more than once. It passed, like no problems with this, but now it's all muddy and dirty, so we have to go and give it a wash. I've never tried the IP69 rating of hot water jets on a phone before, but this is being recorded on the Honor Magic V6 and it's holding up quite well, so durability, this is not a problem. I've been pretty positive about the V6 so far, and kind of foldables in general, but it is not all good on Honor's new foldable. There's always complaints about how expensive foldables are, and on this one, I just can't argue against this. Honor hasn't told me the price of this just yet, but we know foldables push the $2,000 mark, and to be honest, I just don't think this is going to be any different. We always said that foldables would come down in price as the years went on, but right now it just doesn't look like that's ever going to happen. So you either need to cough up the cash for a brand new foldable, or what I think is probably the better thing to do is just go and get last gen's foldable, like whatever was the main phone from last year, go and get that one because that's just as good. A lot of people, because of the high price tag, they don't get to experience how far foldables have come in terms of hardware, and I feel like you really do need to use one of these for a couple of weeks just to realize how good foldables are. The Magic V6 is easily on the same level as a Pixel 10 Pro or an S26 Ultra, but sadly it does cost 2 times the price. There's also some software quirks, especially with Honor. I just don't like the liquid glass copy thing that's going on here with Magic OS 10. YouTube being massive on foldables, this is always a pain. And I find Magic OS on the whole just to be a little slow. It's like it's almost there, but not quite. It just needs a little bit more polish. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, you can't keep hating on Magic OS because it's a good OS. And in general, it is a good OS, but I don't like the blatant copying of what iOS is. And I'm saying this so Honor can listen. Like, if they put their time and effort behind creating a very good Android OS, then this could be one of the best OSs you can get on a folding phone and a phone in general. But if they want to keep copying Apple, I just think they don't really ever have their own identity. Like, I don't really know what Magic OS is all about. I wish that this was the phone that Google would make. The hardware really is the best you can get on a foldable, but you need as good of software to make it feel complete. And right now, the hardware is the thing that's holding this phone up. And sadly, I just can't get on board enough with the software. Foldables might not be perfect. They are still way too expensive. Some apps don't take full advantage of that big screen. And in terms of Honor, Magic OS, it does need some polish. But honestly, for the first time, I think the V6 proves that hardware is not what is holding foldables back anymore. The V6 has an unreal battery. The cameras are mostly great. The display is fantastic. Durability is an old question now because these phones, they might get beat up, but they don't break. And this is why I think the V6 is the best foldable that I've ever used. I think it puts to bed all the questions that everyone ever has about foldables. Listen, we're going to see some big folds come this year, and before Apple jumps in, I think we should appreciate what Samsung, Google and Honor have already done. Because the Magic V6, this is not just a great folding phone, it's a great phone full stop. So I'm curious to hear what you think in the comments about the Honor Magic V6, and if you could get one of these in the US, would you jump on board with Honor? Before you head off, if you could subscribe to the channel, then I would massively appreciate it, and if you do that, then I'll see you in the next one.